and welcome to the Poetry of Justice show with JackieRay Phillips on YikesRadio.com and AccelerateRadio.net. Now, you know, here on the Poetry of Justice show, this is where social consciousness meets the arts. And what we do is we select topics that spark the interest and awareness of social diversity, ranging from art, entertainment, and social justice at large, leaving our listeners thinking and saying in unison, guys.
Yikes!
YikesRadio.com. Did you guys hear that? I didn't hear it. But anyway, generally, those are the sultry sounds of my mentor, the Mr. Kevin Nash. Now, you know, you guys always give a shout out and love and respect to Mr. Kevin Nash, because if it were not for Mr. Nash and what it is that he so loves to do, being the owner of the proprietorship at Accelerated Radio, it would be very difficult for me to do, which is what I so love to do here on the Poetry of Justice show. And then I also like to give a very special shout out to my sister and the benefactor here of the Poetry of Justice show, and that's Miss Lori G of the chat. How are you doing tonight, Miss Lori G?
I am doing great. I am so excited. You guys are going to just go crazy about our guest tonight.
We have an amazing show in store. And then I like to give honor and respect to G Babies Catering, everybody. G Babies Catering, everybody. What you want to do is check him out, guys. You want to check out Chef Mac, and you can go to his IG, his Instagram page at G Babies. That's GBABBIES. Catering. Anyway, that's what you want to do. Check out Chef Matt, guys. He's got some awesome selections on his menu, and I really think you want to give him a shot. Plus, it's my nephew, so just saying. And then I'm also going to give a very awesome shout out to our sponsorship, which is WMPJ Steelworks and APS Muscle Cars. I want to give a very special shout out and let everybody know what's going on over at APS Muscle Cars. There's been an expansion, and so what we've got going on is some restoration for the vehicles, but what we're doing now is some storage. So if you guys have your big toys and you need some place for it to be stored safe, this is the guy you want to talk to. His name is Memo. That's MEMO. Again, that's APSmusclecars.com. So, guys, that's us getting ready here on the train on the Poetry of Justice show. And I just wanted to take a time out to introduce. I'm still very excited. I'm kind of anxious, as I always am, but tonight a little more anxious because I just want to be able to welcome a very special guest whom my sister and I are very honored to have to the show, and that is Mr. Branson Wright. How are you tonight, Mr. Wright?
Oh, I'm well. I was looking around to see what special guest you're talking about, but thank you for having me on.
Of course, my sister and I are so very excited. And then I'd like to give a very special shout out to our amazing talent here, Mr. Big Tap of, let me just make sure I get it right, because I don't want to get in trouble, everybody. He gave me a very specific title.
Not specific.
It is very specific, you guys.
Okay.
I jotted it down. OMG. So I have to say that he is our promoter. It has to be very clear that Gerald Tapper promoted this show, so Big Tap. How you doing tonight, Big Tap?
Oh, I'm doing, thank you for the introduction. I'm doing great. I'm in a good feeling. I got my man, my mentor. I mean, he's everything. Branson Wright. I got my man on the show tonight, and I'm feeling groovy. It's going to be a stone cold groove.
It definitely is. I'm super juiced. I have so many notes. So we were blessed to be able to speak with Branson on earlier this week. And so as Branson was speaking with us, I was able to help to begin to build and develop our show tonight. So there's so many facets. So I don't even know, but I was thinking what we could do is, Branson, you know what I didn't get to find in some of my research of you was where were you born when you were a young lad? So if you could maybe start there.
You said, where was I born?
Yeah, where were you born?
Okay, I'm sorry. Am I the only one getting a lot of feedback?
I think we got a lot of feedback.
How's that? Is that better?
That's
better. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Wow, I'm getting a lot of feedback, but I'll fight through it. So basically, you want me to start from the beginning, right?
You truly do, because I have a whole map of things over here, sir. So I've got pages and pages of things to ask.
Oh wow. Oh
Yeah.
wow.
Yeah, I did my
do you work for
homework.
you work for the government? You doing that research
No.
on me? Wow.
It's just
Wow, that's great. Well, I was born in Cincinnati, Ohio, a long time ago, and you know, I was fortunate enough to grow up in a town called Silverton, Ohio, and you know, Tat being a big time sports fan, I'm sure he's familiar with Roger Staubach, and he's familiar with Buddy Bell and Barry Larkin and David Justice. Well, actually, David wasn't from Silverton, but he was a good friend of mine. So I had the opportunity to grow up in a neighborhood with a lot of sports. So I learned at an early age because I was pretty good in sports, but wasn't great at it. So the next best thing was to write about it. So from the third grade on, from the suggestion of one of my classmates, he said, you know, if you keep this up, what you're doing, you could be a sports writer one day. So from the third grade on, that was my mission, to be a sports writer.
Okay, I want to talk a little bit about, real quick, those Friday nights. Remember those Friday nights in high school, like football, like that excitement, that feeling? You know what I mean? Did you do any writing then when you were in high school? What were you doing then? You know what I mean? So like, give us a Friday night. What was that like for you?
Oh, and I think you're referring to those Friday nights when I was in college, and back in those days we called it a stringer, not a freelance writer, but they called it a stringer, and I still don't know what that meant. But I would cover high school games, and I didn't have a car, and I was afraid to tell the games and to make it back. Wanted to write. I wanted to write and to see my name in the paper the next day as by Branson Wright. So I would take the bus to whatever game I had to cover, and then I would try to hitch a ride after the game from one of the fans, and you know, asking, is anyone going downtown or anybody going close to that way, because I need to get there so I can write this story. Now, 9 times out of 10, if you're a parent of a kid that's playing in this game and you want your kid's name in the paper, you're going to make sure this writer makes his way back downtown. So I would get a ride downtown to the paper, and I would write my story. And one thing about newspapers, it's about writing on deadline. My deadline was twofold because the last bus came at midnight. If I missed that bus, that was a 12-mile walk home, which there's no way I was going to do that. So I would push myself to write as fast as I could to get this story done, and which it happened all the time. I usually made it. But the whole thing for me the next day was that Saturday morning, to be able to read my name in the paper. Now, don't tell my neighbors this. This is what I used to do. The first papers were delivered like about 5 or 6 in the morning. So right. I would get up early in the morning, go to one of my neighbors, get their newspaper on the lawn, unfold it, take it home and read it, and then neatly put it back before they got up. Just so I could say, man, you know, just to see my article. But don't tell my neighbors that.
We do have a couple psychology majors on the panel. Is that a little bit of what kind of behavior is that, guys? Is that a
that is called intelligent behavior. There you go. That is that behavior, Branson.
Exactly. Lord G,
not only intelligent, but quite frugal. So there you go.
You're gonna make it happen. Lord, what do you think about that?
I think that is very, very, very ingenious. It is. You You read it, got it back, put it back, but it also speaks a great testament to your passion. And that's one reason that I'm so happy you're joining us today, is that your story is just so inspiring, and it's so it just shows your level of tenacity and your tireless pursuit of the things that you love and the things that you want to happen. And I think particularly in the era and the time and the culture in which we're living now, we've got to share that story. So I wish anyone who's really excited about their work, they take that step, that they get up early in the morning, they get that newspaper, read it, fold it back up and put it back, because that shows you're committed to what you want to do.
Let me tell you, I did get busted finally about not having
Did
a
you?
car. Yeah, what happened is, Cincinnati is, it borders Kentucky, the river. So there's a lot of coverage that will, you just cross the bridge, and there was a lot of high school coverage over there also. Well, the editor assigned me to cover a game in Kentucky. Now, there is a bus system from Cincinnati to Kentucky, but it's back in the 80s, it was really sporadic. So I was just, oh my gosh, what am I going to do? I mean, I can't catch the bus. I can't get a ride. What the heck am I going to do? So I confessed to my editor that I don't have a car. And I was really, I was nervous. I said, okay, they're not going to let me cover any more games. But he told me, he goes, wait a minute, you didn't have a car and you were able to get to your games and get back here and get home. I mean, wow. So it was against the rules because it was a union paper, but he assigned me for a car to use a car to get to games. And when I became a professional after I graduated from college, that was one of the references he would put when people would call, said that this guy would go through these lengths to get to these games just to cover them. And, and so I really appreciated that.
That is beyond passionate, in my opinion. That's just when you got to do something, you just got to get out there and do it. You're just on the grind. That's hustling at a whole nother level, in my opinion. Big Tack, can you weigh in a little bit about your connection and some of the most inspiring things that you would say about Mr. Branson Wright and your connections with him?
When I inquired about the show, Branson, I was excited, and he was, willing to help me and, make this show what it is. And he told me, do you remember how we met? And I said, no, I don't remember how we met. Vaguely, I know we met in Denver, Colorado, but I didn't remember how. And he told me a story about how we were in line. Branson, can you elaborate on that now?
Oh yes. And let me tell you, ladies, I think if Tap, you had to play football back in the day, right?
Yes,
Didn't
I
you?
did.
Okay,
Yes.
okay, all right. Now this is how I found out.
Okay.
So it was All-Star game. We're in Denver, Colorado, and people are in line and they're letting certain people in, and then when they say you can come in, and people kind of, I don't say bum rush, but they kind of move in. So I think I was near Tap and some of his boys, and we were standing in line, and then they let a group of us in, and I kind of stepped, and Tap kind of gave me like a boxing me out kind of move, like I'm getting in here, and so after a while I got in, and we just started talking. I just, I didn't even come to him like, man, what you bumped me for? We just started talking, and we just hit it off. I mean, instantly hit it off.
Yeah.
Do you remember that, Tat?
Oh, I remember that.
Yeah.
And through the years, we, being as though he was a journalist at the time, and I was working at the Hilton, I was doing several things. I was like a jack of all trades, master of nothing. But he was, I was doing music and a lot of things, but we kept in touch, and he would always invite me like to functions, and we would always meet up at the All-Star game. So we met up in other cities and we would hang out, and I just knew this brother was, I knew it was something about Branson that intrigued me, that I really liked. Not only the personality, but, you know, just, you know, his hustle and the way he would attack things and the way he spoke to people. He didn't know I was taking notes when I was around him, and, you know, just, you know, trying to get, you know, I always try to be around people that inspire me. And he was one of the people that inspired me. So I would try to be around him. So luckily I had things where, you know, I always thought Branson was going to be coming through for me, doing little things here and there. But it comes to that, because I work at the Hilton, hey, that's something I can do. I could get him rooms. He's always traveling. So he would call me up, Pat, I need a room here, I need a room. And I was happy to oblige. And we just stayed cool. And to this day, like 15 years later, he's in my lobby in the Hilton. He can get his own rooms now because I set him up. You know what I mean? So that's my man. And, you know, I've been with him since he's done all his films and his accomplishments, as far as, you know, his friend's story from Cincinnati, the Dwight Anderson story. Actually, I donated to that when he first did that. He did this story from the groundwork, and he was online. I think it was a GoFundMe, wasn't it, Branson?
Yes.
It was a GoFundMe. His first project that he sold, documentary of Dwight Anderson, but he did it on a GoFundMe thing. And I found that impressive. And, you know, he was from the ground up like me, you know. It was like, and it was knowing he had no shame. It was all just good, down home, old-fashioned hustle. You know what I mean? And, you know, I loved him. I stuck to him, and here we are now, you know? And he's on his way, guys. Listen, he's at the beginning, I'm telling you. I'm sticking to him even closer now, because he's doing HBO stuff, and you know, he's just opening all kind of avenues. So I'm proud of him. That's my boy, and that's how we do it. Yeah.
I love it.
And just to let the audience know, we are definitely advocates of, you know, I'm shopping movies now. I just want y'all to know this is the kind of brother Branson is. I'm getting involved in the film, and, you know, trying to get some distribution on some movies and stuff like that. And because he has already done, he is one of the persons that's helping me in, you know, taking my material and shopping it. And I couldn't ask for no more. And, you know, he's giving me back, and he's telling me the stuff that all I gotta hear is, you know, you gotta be patient, but all I gotta hear is the stuff that he's working with. He tells me it's not whack. So that's it. That's all I gotta say. Yeah.
That's beautiful. Shelly, so did you have any questions for Mr. Wright before I get started on my next line of fun time?
No, actually, I think he's pretty much given us a good history of his background, and also how he and Tap became really good friends. But did you have anybody that was your inspiration, Mr. Wright, in the time that you started to dream about sports writing?
Wow, gee, that's a good question. And the reason why I say it's a good question, because most of the time as a sports writer, I'm always asking those questions. So that's a good one. Wow, you know, it was so many. It was so many.
Okay, name me two. Name me two.
Okay. All right. Let me give you the first one.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
When I was in middle school, or which we called junior high back then, that's when Roots came out, and as everyone, I was just, you know, enthralled with Roots, and then to find out that Alex Haley, you know, he wrote it, and he was a writer, and the things that he went through, I was just inspired by it. So let's fast forward to I'm a year out of college, and we'll get into that. when I couldn't find a job for an entire year. But so I'm hanging out on campus, and one of my classmates, she was taking Alex Haley, Bernice King, and Atala Shabazz, Malcolm X's daughter. They were on a speaking tour. So she was their host. And I went up to her and I said, I don't care what you do, you get me in that room to talk to Alex Haley. She gets me in the room to Alex Haley. And I said, Mr. Haley, you know, been a fan. And I said, and I've been out of school a year, can't find a job. And, you know, I'm 24 years old. And he looked at me and he said, is that all? He said, oh, come on, man. He said, you know, you have to be patient and just try to, which I'll never forget, try to write things that people want to read. And so it was encouraging to hear that from him, somebody I looked up to. And this chance meeting that I got to meet him, although I threatened my classmate, it was inspiring to me. And then Ralph Wiley, he was sports writer, Sports Illustrated, and he worked for the Oakland Tribune, and he was one of the first Black sports writers that was on ESPN. And I wrote him in college, and he wrote me back after looking at my articles, and that was very inspirational. You know, people you look up to give you some encouraging words. It went a long way.
Wow, and it sounds like both of them gave you some very encouraging words. And
Yes.
I find it also surprising that, you know, you were inspired to be a sports writer, but if I'm not mistaken, Mr. Haley was a storyteller.
Yes.
So they are similar, but different in different ways. But it's nice to hear. Alex Haley, I was surprised to hear that, but a pleasant surprise.
What was that moment, man? I can't even imagine. You know what I mean? Like it's just like a moment for me now. You having Branson on the show. It's like, I wanted to talk about, because you said you were going to tell us a little bit about travel and some of the people that you've met throughout your journey. And definitely, I'm pretty sure that that's one of those stories. But I had a question for you, Branson. What was it like, life after newspaper? Because you've been doing your newspaper work out of, you know, Cincinnati as a kid, and this is what you were loving and what you knew to do. What was that transition like, and why?
Oh, another great question.
Yes.
Listen, this is a 2-hour show, right?
See, yes, sir.
Okay, all right. Okay, good. All right, good. All right, so let's see. Let's go to probably in the mid-90s, I saw a documentary by Ken Burns. There was 2 documentaries I saw that he did. One was a series on baseball, and the other one was on rock and roll. And one of the things on rock and roll, he had a segment on funk. And, you know, being from Cincinnati and near Dayton, Ohio, where a lot of funk bands are from, and I was just, you know, enthralled with seeing this, basically the storytelling on screen. And I just thought to myself, you know, I think I could do that. So that was in the 90s. So fast forward to 2008, around 2008. Can you guys hear me? Can you see me?
Yes.
You hear me?
I hear you.
Okay. Okay, so 2008, there was a story that I wanted to do write a story on a guy. His name is Dwight Anderson. And whenever I spoke to people about Dwight Anderson was a great college basketball player who didn't reach his potential as far as the NBA. But whenever I spoke with someone about Dwight Anderson, they were very descriptive. And I didn't think a written story lend itself to really showcase what he was all about. So I knew nothing about shooting or editing film, never directed a film, but it's just something that I thought that I wanted to do. So I did call in some friends that were lightweight in the business. You know, a friend who had a camera. He wasn't a filmmaker, but he had a camera. And there was a guy I knew that could edit. And I said, I'd like to do this story on Dwight. I don't know where I'm going to get the money from, but this is just something I want to do. Now, and I got to back up a bit, something I wanted to share with the audience, with you. 15 minutes prior to this interview, I got a call that Dwight died today.
Today?
Yes.
Oh.
Oh my gosh.
Yes.
Oh no.
Yes. 15 minutes before we came on, I got a Facebook message from someone saying, "Did you hear about Dwight?" I'm like, "No." And I spoke to Dwight 2 weeks ago, and they said he died. And what's interesting is that, and when I tell the story about Dwight, you know, Dwight, he was homeless for so many years, and he was a substance abuser, but that didn't kill him. They're pretty sure it's COVID. You know, Dwight was working. He was working at the time. He had been working at this plant, and I understand that it was a high COVID area, and that's what the initial things they're thinking Dwight passed of. So, you know, I'm still getting information and still trying to get through it, but I wanted to do this.
Coming through. Thank you so much for coming.
Yeah.
So very sorry to
you
hear
know,
that, Branson.
Yes. Yeah, thank you. So I wanted to tell the story about Dwight because of, as I said, it was so descriptive, and when, you know, and Tap knows this, when you talk to people from their hometown and they like to brag where they're from and who was the best this and who was the best that, but most cities, when you talk about who was the best, you hear different names. But in Dayton, Ohio, when you ask someone about who's the best basketball player, they all say the same thing, Dwight Anderson. And this is the same hometown as Ron Harper, who played with Michael Jordan, played with the Lakers, and even Ron Harper will tell you that it's Dwight Anderson. And his nickname was the Blur because he was so fast on the court. And I just wanted to tell the story on Dwight, and the only thing that derailed him was his substance abuse. Now, when we met doing the story, Dwight was homeless, and he was on the street. And I said to Dwight that for this story to come off Dwight, you have to get clean. So I made calls to some of his contemporaries, Isaiah Thomas, Dominique Wilkins, and they came up with the money for Dwight to go to a rehab facility with John Lucas, former NBA player John Lucas, now an assistant with the Houston Rockets. And he was once a substance abuser, and he has this great facility in Houston. So got Dwight clean. He comes back to Dayton. We finished the story. And for the past few years, Dwight and I have been going to different schools and different camps around the country, sharing with young people about don't mess up your opportunity when you have one. These young men or young ladies, I tell them, I don't care how good you think you are. This man was the best player in the country amongst guys that are in the Hall of Fame, who in my film talk about that. But the difference is you can't waste your opportunity. And so we tell the story. I speak, we show the film, and the audience, they don't know Dwight is there. And then Dwight will come out to applause and answer their questions. And he was so to the point, and he just, the crowd loved him. So that's how I got into it, because of Dwight. And you know, God rest his soul from the news, you know, I heard today.
On a gentleman by the name of Roosevelt Chapman.
Say that again? Roosevelt Chapman?
Yes.
Oh, Roosevelt couldn't touch Dwight.
Oh, okay.
Roosevelt was nice. He was nice.
No.
He was nice, but he couldn't touch Dwight.
Oh,
No,
Good.
no, not at all. He was nice though. He was nice. You know, and like I said, you know, Ron Harper was nice, but Ron Harper says that Dwight was the best.
How do you know when you? Okay. Let me get my thoughts right, because there's so many facets of you. We've got the filmmaker. Okay, we have an author. We have a sports writer. We've got a filmmaker. We have a producer. We have a director. Can I keep going? But your filmmaking side. How do you know when that product is ready to go? What in you or in the project itself makes you say, okay, this is it, it's ready, let's do it?
You mean the finished product?
Correct. How do you know when it's finished? You see what I'm saying? Because,
I see.
Kind of get in there with me.
Well, the one thing you were describing, like all the hats that I wear, but they all have one thing in common. I'm a storyteller. If it's book, if it's an article, if it's on film, if I could sing, it would be in a song. But it's a story. You want to tell the story. So in any of those facets, you want, what is the story? What is it?
Right.
And you don't really think about how long it is, how short it is. You just want to make sure you tell the complete story. And you know when it's complete. You want to have an arc. Like in this film, it's you introduce Dwight, who he is, his background. You talk about his journey, and then you come to a crescendo, hopefully, near the end. Hopefully it's a good story, and it's not a good story. Hopefully it's a happy ending. Sometimes it isn't, but for an example, in the case with Dwight, it's a happy ending because after all the trouble and things he went through, he went around to different communities, helping other kids, training them and sharing his story.
Right. Did you see that? Did you guys hear this, people? The crescendo. Did you see him flexing on that? I just love it. I'm thinking about Ronald Coleman when he just says, shut up and squat. You know what I mean? So you just do it. Almost like Nike, just do it. I love that. I love that, just being a storyteller. So I've got a surprise for you guys later. I'm just going to put it out there on the platforms just so we can have a little teaser. I have a new piece of poetry when you talk about storytelling, Mr. Branson Wright. Your girl, JackieRay Phillips here, happens to be a spoken word artist and a poet.
Oh, nice.
So I have a brand new piece that I wrote last week, and so I've been saving it, and I wanted to save it for today. It's supposed to be coming out in the LA Art News, but we'll do that way later. So I just thought I'd share that little tidbit. I'm super excited. Lori, because you know how I go on and on, so I want to share the platform. Did you want to hand off? Did you want me to hand off for a little bit? Did you have anything in particular you want to speak to Branson about? Because I still got another ring.
Well, I do. Before we leave your childhood and your inspiration in college, Branson, Shelley C. asked you something that was, I think, very exciting. She asked, who were the individuals that inspired you, right? And so what words of inspiration would you have for young writers that are finding their way in college, or maybe even earlier, that are in high school, to encourage or inspire them to keep on their path and to keep on that journey?
That's easy. I almost became a police officer. I was this close in becoming a police officer. As I said, it was that year after I graduated from college, I couldn't find a job. I mean, I flew to Portland, Oregon for a job interview, didn't get it. I went to Lexington, Kentucky, didn't get that job. I went to a small city in Michigan, didn't get a job. I borrowed my mother's car and drove to Reading, PA for an interview. On the way back, the car died.
Oh,
My mother's
wow.
car died. So my mother was really hot, you know,
Oh my
and I didn't
God.
get the job either. So, you know, I couldn't even afford to fix the car. So, so the thing about it is you know, I just wasn't real confident the way things are going, and should I even be a sports writer? Am I good enough? So I applied to be an officer in Cincinnati, and I went through the whole process up until the police academy. During this whole time, I was an extra in a movie.
Oh.
Are you familiar with A Rage in Harlem with Forrest Whitaker, Robin
Yes,
Givens?
absolutely. Yes.
Yes. So I was. There's a scene at the end. If you look real close, you might see me at the end of the movie.
You know, I'm pulling up my Netflix now, right, Branson?
Oh yeah, pull it up. It's at the very end, the train scene, and you know, you might see me a brief moment. So, so there was an actor that was one of the actors named Ron Taylor, and I spoke with, got to be really cool with Ron. He was one of these brothers, although he was an actor, but he would talk to the extras, and so we got a nice rapport. And I told him what was going on. I said, Ron, I said, I don't want to be a cop, but I can't find a job. And so the lesson that he taught me, he said, look, he said, I played pro football, but I always wanted to be in show business. So after 5 years in the old American Football League, he quit, and he took a Greyhound bus in 1969 from Houston to New York. A year later, he was on Broadway on The Wiz, making $1,500 a week in 1970. $1,500 a week.
Whoa.
So he told me the lesson is this. He said, every day you have to do something towards your goal. He said, either filling out applications, talking to people in your field, doing everything you can. And he said, and when you don't do it a day, you miss a day. Every day, you got to do something. And he said, so, you know, your parents, they want the best for you. That's why they're concerned. That's what they're supposed to be.
Right.
And he said, so, you know, all right, hold on, my phone getting a little low on battery. Let me plug it up.
Okay.
Okay. Plugged in.
Every day.
There we go.
Okay. And he said, so your family's doing what they're supposed to do. So, wow, I felt such a relief when he said that. So I went down to the academy, and they had a black lieutenant. And at this time, they were actively recruiting black police officers. They were trying to get these black police officers, and I felt I was letting them down. You know, here I was one of 10 chosen to be in this academy, and I gonna tell them no. So I went down. You know, I said, sir, I appreciate everything you guys have done, but you know, I have to decline the opportunity. And he looked at me and he said, we were wondering why you were doing this. He said, in all of our background checks, everyone said, this guy's a writer. What are you talking about? A cop? It was like, we can't understand. I mean, they interviewed my neighbors, my teachers, you know, childhood friends. And he even had some of my articles from college and from high school. And he said, young man, he said, good luck. He said, and if it doesn't work out, we're always here. And that just was just a nice calm over me. So my advice to young folks, whatever goal that they're reaching for, you know, I just use what Ron Taylor told me. Every day, you have to do something. Every single day.
And that goes for old folks too.
Absolutely,
Okay.
that's amazing advice. Definitely.
Okay. Speaking of myself,
Yeah, for sure.
Right. I'd like to welcome, we didn't talk much with a warm welcome, Branson, to Virginia, who's joining us, who is
Hi,
becoming a
Virginia.
friend. Yeah. And we have Kristen Fisher with us, who is definitely part of the POJ family. And we are blessed to have with us Mr. Charlie, who's joining us.
What's up?
Hey, how you hanging in
How
there?
you
We've
doing?
missed you.
Yeah, I've been hanging in there pretty good, getting better every day,
All right, we know those tornadoes and hurricanes were down south in Florida there. You safe and everything work out?
Yeah, well, the good thing, it's been passing over us. It's been going by us and hitting everybody else. So God, I thank God for that.
That's true.
Amen.
Right. Great. So, I don't know if we're ready to go, but I'm super excited to talk about, you guys know, the women of Troy. Oh my goodness.
I know, right?
Absolutely.
I wanted to ask the first question of the women of Troy.
Okay.
Now, I know usually like the White, like the Blur and your other projects, you came up with the idea, or that was your invention.
Yes.
Where did the women of Troy come from? Well, I mean, was that a job given to you, or was that as well one of your inventions?
It was it was definitely mine. I remember exactly where I was. It was 2008. I was in the office at the newspaper, the Cleveland Plain Dealer, and I called Cheryl on the phone. Now, I was able to call her on the phone is because we developed a relationship through she was a sideline reporter for TNT, and I was covering the NBA. So I was able to develop a relationship. Plus, which also came in handy later, a good friend of mine, Cheryl, dated way back in the day. So when I dropped his name, hey, you're all good. So he's a really good guy. He's a really good guy. So I called Cheryl, and this is during the time that I'm trying to complete the Blur, and I said, Cheryl, I don't know how I'm going to get this done, but I want your permission to pursue doing a documentary on your team. And she said, well, absolutely. She said, I'll check for some of my teammates, but I don't see a problem. And also during this time, you saw these 30 for 30s on ESPN talking about all these other great teams, great male teams. And I'm like, women of Troy, have you heard of them? The greatest women's basketball team ever, and I must say, I was stunned, especially USC being one of the great film schools in the world, that no one from USC did it. I just couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe it. But oftentimes when something is right there with you, sometimes you overlook it. So I can understand that. So for years, I was proposing the women of Troy to different outlets. Some I won't name. They turned it down. So one of them said that no one cares about women's sports. Others just wasn't feeling it at the time. In fact, one cable network basically led us on. We really thought it was going to happen, and they didn't call us back when they said that they were. So fortunately, HBO, they believed in it, and Gary Cohen, who's my mentor, who believed in me, which is another whole story. But the fact that Gary Cohen believed in me, that helped to get the women of Troy done.
That's amazing. Now, I watched the Women of Troy just today I'd watched it before, but I watched it again just to get caught up. And I have to call you out, Branson. Are you sure you had no formal film training? Editing on this piece is amazing. God just gave you that talent?
No. I didn't edit it. All I did was produce, putting putting things together. I mean, we part of Gary Cohen's team. He has a editor, Ross Hosgrove, and Ross. Let me tell you about Ross, who edited the film. When I was trying to finish The Blur, didn't have the money. I mean, it took me years from start to finish. It took 7 years to complete The Blur, and that's because there was no money. You know, I would get different people to shoot and edit, not even edit, but just to shoot for me. So when I met Gary Cohen, which again, we'll get background on that. But when I met Gary and I said to him, I said, well, I got this film on this basketball player and I can't afford an editor. And he says, well, look, he says, I have a young guy. He loves basketball, although it's the Celtics. He said, but he loves basketball. And he said, I'm sure he'd want to help you with this film. And so I talked to Ross, and Ross did a wonderful job on The Blur. And because of the work on The Blur and other things with Gary, you know, he elevated to becoming the editor of Women of Troy.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's great. And you are an amazing storyteller, because you just took me right on through, smooth and easy. I was captivated from the beginning when you talk about Title IX to the very end. I tell you, just excellent storytelling. And so I have some questions for you that are kind of behind the scenes, right? Because you know, Virginia, Virginia and I are big Trojans, right? Fight on, right?
Yes, that's gonna happen.
Absolutely.
Yes, yes.
I think I was actually born a Trojan. I've been at SC so long, it's unbelievable, right? So I was actually there when Cheryl Miller, the McGee twins, and Cooper were there. I was a student, actually had a class with Cheryl. Not that we were friends, but you know, basketball at SC or any sports at SC, you're like royalty, right? So they had like their special usher in and their special section that they set in class, and us nobodies, you know, we just sat over and kind of wished we could get that special treatment. So I know that Cheryl, and you say this very clearly in your documentary, that Cheryl was the greatest of all time for female basketball players, right? And you kind of pit her right up there with Michael Jordan. But I just have one name for you. Cynthia Cooper. Cynthia Cooper.
That, you know.
I got that one name now. I know there's that rivalry, right?
Yes, yes. And you bring up a great point. And as we try to showcase it in the film, you had basically the first part of the film was all Cheryl. Cheryl, this great player, this Cheryl Miller. And then what we thought Cheryl was going to become is what Cynthia became. So we had that, you know, here they were, these rivals, and all this focus on Cheryl, but Cynthia came out of that. And I always remind people that team was so good that a Hall of Famer came off the bench, and Cynthia Cooper.
Right.
So Cynthia definitely, arguably, one of the best, but I still have to give it to Cheryl. And a lot of it is what we thought Cheryl was going to continue to be.
Mm-hmm.
Because, you know, she was just 22 years old when her career ended.
Right.
So we projected that she was going to be even greater. Sort of like, as Tap would know, like Gale Sayers. You know, he played only 6 years in the NFL, but it was so great. You know, he still made it to the Hall of Fame. And a lot of it was what we projected him to be if he never got hurt. And that's the same thing with Cheryl. But I take nothing away from Coop. Nothing at all. Love Coop. Love Coop.
You started a huge rivalry here in the Fisher household today. My husband is Cooper, okay? And I'm like, no, it's Cheryl. So we came up with this question. He's like, okay, well, ask Branson when you get on there. Ask him. He's going to side with me. So here's the deciding factor. So
Okay.
if we had a team where Cheryl and Cynthia Cooper were playing opposite, right?
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Whose light would shine the brightest? Because my husband is of the mindset that Cheryl's light was so bright because of Cynthia Cooper. Mine is like, Cheryl is just bright. He could be playing anywhere.
Well, I got to disagree with your husband. I mean, Cheryl had it all.
Yeah.
You know, she was long. You know, she could shoot, she could rebound. She could do it all. And in fact, I was looking at an interview today with the great Charles Oakley, and they were asking Oakley if he could ever see women playing NBA basketball. And his point was, he said, yes, if there was a Cheryl Miller, he said, if Cheryl Miller was out now, I could see her playing in today's NBA. He said, she probably wouldn't start. He said, but I could see her playing in today's NBA because the game isn't as physical as it was back in the 80s. You know, you can hardly breathe on a player and they call a foul. So you're going to tell me Cheryl Miller can play on the wing and you can't really touch her? Come on. She's going to do something. And I just think she's just more of a complete player. But again, I take nothing away from Coop. But I just think, as we say in boxing, pound for pound, Cheryl Miller was the greatest women's basketball player ever.
Okay.
And Coop will tell you that.
She will.
Pound for pound, as you just said, Branson, it just happened to go here. Can you describe that night when you met Mike Tyson? And then what was that like for you?
You know, this was funny. I've been in Cleveland for 20 years, but back in the late 80s, early 90s, Tyson spent a lot of time in Cleveland under Don King. So, you know, I've heard all these stories of him partying and you know, all kind of stuff he did. So when I interviewed Tyson before we met, when I interviewed him, first thing on the phone, I started bringing up his time in Cleveland. And he was just like, yeah, man. Oh, what about that one club? Oh, that club, it was great. Oh, I had a great time, man. Oh, this is so cool. Oh, man, you remember the name of that club? I mean, he was just, he was kind of subdued when we talked, but when I brought him about the nightlife in Cleveland back in his day, oh, he was going nuts. It was just crazy. So the event where I met him, he's been on a speaking tour. So he came to Cleveland on a speaking tour. So after his one-man show, what they called it, we met in person. I said, we talked over the phone, and he was really gracious. He's a really nice guy.
That's a cool story. I love that. Now, what about the night you met Mary Mayweather? How did that go?
Well, Floyd and I go back. So I've spent 7 years in Grand Rapids, Michigan, as a reporter there, and 96 is when we went to 96 Olympics, and I had been there for 3 years already. So I knew Big Floyd, his dad, you know, Floyd Sr. and his uncles Jeff and Roger. So Floyd and I, you know, had a relationship. But there's one secret I always tell people: if it's a big crowd, if it's a big crowd and you want to get Floyd's attention, there's one thing you say. And I'll give you an example. I'm in it was All-Star Game Orlando, and I'm in the back where all the celebrities and all the stars are coming through, and they got it roped off, and people are yelling, Floyd, and they're yelling all these people. And I just yelled one thing, made him stop. Little Floyd. He's only known as Little Floyd in Grand Rapids. He stopped. He looked. Hey, man, what's up? Yeah. Hey, how you doing? You know, and so just, you know, and Floyd's a good guy. I mean, and I've told people a lot of this money Floyd thing, a lot of it was an act. You know, for Floyd, and a lot of boxers, you'll learn that they're shy, and a lot of it is show business. And I've, you know, just always been really, really cool guy. But he does one thing I always hate. Every time I see him, he's like, take my number. I'm like, why? You change it every other day. I mean, as soon as he gives you his number, you call it, it's changed.
Oh my God.
If I got 50 phones, I guess he can afford it.
That part right there, huh? Exactly,
Right,
Branson.
right.
So Branson, I know I've been listening, and I am honored and excited, and I am going to just tell you a little bit something about me real quick, and how you talked about Gary Cohen and so forth, and so many of your mentors. Is it okay for me to officially like pop my collar, JackieRay Phillips of the Poetry of Justice show, because we have you on the show? Can you believe that? I look at all the people you've met and all the work that you've done, and then I'm honored, and us as a team, to have you on here. So I just want to know, like, officially, can I like pop my collar and like put you on my like resume in some kind of way? Is that like too extra, guys? What?
I mean, if anything I can do to help.
Because you said every day you gotta do something to get closer to that goal.
Yes.
And so today, my get closer is Branson Wright. So thank you for being
Jackie,
with us.
I don't know, Jackie, one thing I still can't believe about Branson. When I approached him to help me, and I'm thinking this is going to cost me. When I approached him to get involved in my project, when I was shopping several projects, because I knew he had the ends and he knew the people. I said, so, eventually I started talking about money. I said, Branson, so how much is it? How much? Because everyone's always talking about money. Eventually you're going to get a conversation where anybody you talk to about any project, they're going to bring up money because they want to know how much you got. So I brought it up with Branson first because we had a relationship, and I wasn't scared to bring it up with him. Other people, I'm a little reluctant, but Branson, I brought it up. Branson, how much I owe you, brother, if you help me first? I knew he had to like it first, and then, he said, Tat, you don't owe me nothing. He said, I'm doing this for you, brother. I'm saying, but Branson, hold up. When people tell me that means they putting it on the shelf, brother. They blah, blah, blah. I really think these movies is good. That. I'm getting them to my people. Right now, everybody going through the COVID stuff and everything. But when he said that to me, Jackie, it just really helped me change my attitude. You know what I mean? Because, I'm thinking about money all the time. And I'm thinking, how much am I going to have to give out or how much am I going to receive? But I'm always thinking about money. But it's people like Branson that value camaraderie and friendship more than money. It's still people like that, believe it or not. And it just made me realize that I got to incorporate that in myself, because it's just a good feeling when people just make you exhale and relax. He made me relax, said that. Because that's another issue. Money is always an issue with him, with Shelley, with all of us. Money is an issue all the time. We got to deal with it. But he took less, took less stress off of me, worried about money, and doing a big thing for me. That's what kind of person, and Branson, man, I didn't know you were so influential speaking like this, brother. I mean, you the man, brother. I mean,
I know, right?
I thank you, and I'd say, Tap. I mean, think about it. You set me up with the hotels. You didn't ask me for anything, and I mean, there's a lot of people that helped me and help all of us along the way, and don't ask for a dime. It was a couple times in college, I ran out of money. I didn't have anything, and I'm like, okay, I got to pay some tuition, and I'm short, and so I said, well, I'm just going to go to the top. So I went to the president's office of the school to look. I don't have any money. Can you help? And so as I went to his office, his secretary, of course she's gonna, be the buffer before you get to the president. And his secretary asked me why I wanted to see him. And I said, then I told her why. And she said, how much is it? And I told her. And she wrote me a check.
See?
And she didn't ask me, and she said to me, this is not a loan. She said, here, go pay for it. It was University of Cincinnati. University of Cincinnati. And I'm like, and I'm getting chills just thinking about it again. And it's like, she didn't have to do that. Yeah. Just she could be like, whatever. And, she did that. So, as we say, I mean, friendship and favors and just looking out for people, it's my thing is it's something we're supposed to do. And I get that from my parents. If my dad asked me to take the neighbor's garbage in and he said, if they try to give you some money, don't you take it. And I think one time I did take it, and my dad made me take the money back. He said, you don't always have to do stuff for money.
I love that.
Now you say
a true testament to your character, definitely.
Yes. Oh, but don't get it twisted. Now let's give you another side, okay? The brother got another side too, and I think I provoked that side.
So, got a what side?
What side is it?
A couple weeks ago, I asked Branson to intervene because I was dealing with a couple directors and screenwriters and whatnot, and I know he's involved in that. He's a mentor of mine as well. And we got on the phone and we talked about how the percentage of the screenwriters going to get. We did not know the exact, me and my partner, Mr. Charlie here, we didn't know the exact percentage. So the people on the line that we were talking to, the conversation got heated, but I used Branson as a mediator when it got to, and he called me back after that call and said, Tap, a different voice, different attitude, different everything. This was the Branson. I said, I knew you had that in you. He said, Tap, don't you ever put me in a situation like that again. I had to fess up. Branson, listen, I'm sorry, brother. I didn't know it was going on. But it's something you learned, and he just let it get that. Took a little smack on the wrist, and, it was cool. But I felt that strength that I know he has when he deals with people if it has to come out. I saw that part too, bro.
It wasn't that harsh. It wasn't that harsh.
Wasn't that bad, Branson?
Nah, it wasn't that bad. It wasn't that bad.
Listen, don't you ever.
So Virginia and Chris, do you guys have questions that you'd like to ask Branson?
Well, this has been so inspiring, just listening to your story, and I love to write words and have them all over the place and sayings because they kind of inspire you. So your that one from Ron that gave you every day do something towards your goal, that's going to be all over the place, because it's so true, because we get up and you get caught into your routine and you don't do something toward your goal. You do something for somebody else or to help somebody else or to, just to keep it moving. So that is very important, and I'm taking that one to heart. I have a question for you, since your sports is like the thing that you're so grounded with. How do you have any of the inside stories of the young men who have to go through the draft and their experience with dealing with the owners in the draft? I had a young man, I was, a sports mom that, the kids football, basketball, baseball, whatever, from one sports team to the other. And one of the young men, he kind of made it, to the Chargers, but he shared a story with me, and I could see the heartfelt disappointment in his soul of what he went through in the drafting process, of how he was treated, and he equated it, and he was really young, to being on the auction block is what he felt like. And it just kind of disturbed my spirit to have this young, I'm all excited. You're going pro ball. Woo, 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 woo. I'm all, like that. And then he drops this story on me, and I was like, oh, wow. So do you have any insight or heard stories or that you could share with us?
Well, similar to what you said, I've heard that quite often, on how some of these athletes, how they feel, during this process. And I don't know if this young man was drafted or not. A lot of times
he did get drafted, but he was like the bench draft player. He got the minimum signing contract, of a salary, which was a decent salary for anybody, 20 years old. They're on the table. So that's but he wasn't going to be the superstar that everybody's running behind. He was like the B player. So
the first thing that jumped out to me, and to answer your question, yes, I've heard of these stories on how these guys are treated, and I guess growing up, and even before you enter that, you have this vision of the NFL or whatever sport being fair and being, we're going to take the best guy, which a lot of times they don't take the best guy. They take who they like, and that happens quite often. But one of the best lessons for me that I didn't know, well, one, I was able to have a relationship with Jim Brown, the great Jim Brown, which, sometimes I pinch myself and like, man, I can call Jim Brown on the phone. But I asked Jim, I said, Jim, when did you start thinking about the end of your career and things that you were going to do? And he said, I thought about that the day that I signed my first contract. I was thinking about the end of my career. So during that whole time, while he was playing with the Browns, Jim was involved in other things, besides human rights, being a leader for human rights, but also and in real estate and things of that nature. But as we know, he became an actor in Hollywood, and he was preparing for that before the end. So one thing that I would advise any athlete, even while they're in college, and I've even mentioned this to some athletes, for example, there was a defensive back for the Browns, and every time I interviewed him, he was just a great interview. I mean, this guy was really good interview, really outgoing guy. And I said to him, I said, man, have you thought about end of your career doing some sports commentating or going in that field? And he said, no, I haven't thought about it. I said, well, maybe you should. I said, you don't want to wait till your career is over. I said, you can start doing things now. And I said, in these television stations, they would love, to have an NFL player, on their show doing some things. And that's what he ended up doing. And so when his career got cut short, he's doing sports announcing now. So I would advise any athlete, don't wait till the end to think about what you're going to do after your career. Start getting things in motion while you're playing, especially because of the audience that you're going to have being an athlete and getting a lot of attention. So you can use that to your advantage.
Well, hello, I have a question and a comment. Can you hear me?
Sure. Yes.
Okay. So you talk with all the greats, but I want to know spirituality. So I know you must talk to God or you talk to the Lord,
Oh,
but
absolutely. Yes.
Thinking about when those little blocks that were how you in college couldn't get a job, how when you didn't have a car, how, the secretary paid paid before you even got to the president. do you think that with knowing God that you had that unction to do those steps, and because you took those steps, he made the way in the process?
Let me tell you something. Sometime I think, like, God, why me? Why are you opening these doors? Why did you give me this courage to try to achieve? And especially when I'm down or some things aren't working my way, I just look at what he's done in the past and how he's always come through. And, without question, although, I haven't always been the best Christian, that God has always been faithful. And because of him being faithful, because of that grace, that's the only reason why that what little I've achieved is because of him. And I mean, it's no question about that.
Yes, that's beautiful. Yay!
Oh, thank you.
As long as God is in it, yay!
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Charlie, you're pretty quiet tonight.
But I'm listening. I'm listening a lot and learning. But a lot what I was listening to his story is like a documentary. Just the steps that he took, the effort he put in, the tricks that he used. Because just being an artist myself, I had some of those same challenges because I produce also. When I was a rapper artist, I wanted to produce for other artists, so it was hard trying to get to the other artists to produce for them. So I had to be creative, and I said, my quickest way is to try to act like I'm going to book them for a show, so I can get to the manager, and while I get on the phone with the manager, then I submit him with some tracks instead of talking about the show. But it started off like that. But some of his tricks that he used, I can relate to that. You know what I'm saying? So his even just his life is a documentary. The way I'm listening to the story, it's just amazing the steps that he took, the creativity. Even though we know it's spiritual, but you got to have that faith, and what you're doing, without saying, I don't know how this is going to turn out, but I'm finna try it. You know what I'm saying? Just that faith step that he's taken is just amazing. So I'm listening and just learning, learning more.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Right. Well, I have another place that I want to go, and it's Believeland.
Where we going?
You're going to Believeland.
Yes. Yes.
Yes. Yeah. Now that's an ESPN project, right?
Yes.
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 That was that came about. Again, let me back up. The 2012, I wrote an article on the Ali Summit. Know you familiar? And it was the 45th anniversary of the Ali Summit in 1967, when Ali declined to go to the Vietnam War. Jim Brown, Bill Russell, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, some of the top black athletes in the country, got together in Cleveland, and they initially were showing support for Ali to be a conscientious objector. And so that was done right in Cleveland. So I did this article. It was a huge article in the paper, front page. I talked to everybody. There's an iconic photo with all of these guys on it, and I spoke to just about everybody on that photo, including trying to get Jabbar at the All-Star game in Orlando, couldn't get him, had to follow and track him down in Chicago and get him at a speaking event in Chicago. And it was just a trip trying to pinpoint Jabbar, but I finally got him. So anyway, I write this article, and I get a call from somebody I never knew, who introduced himself. His name is Gary Cohen. He's a filmmaker, and he was interested in doing a film on the Ali Summit, and he wanted to get phone numbers of Jim Brown, Bill Russell, those guys that I interviewed. And I'm thinking to myself, you know, who is this guy calling for some phone numbers? You know, just calling me out of the blue. But something told me to give it to him. So I gave him the information, and then we started developing a relationship, you know, and that's how the Blur came about. As I was saying before, he hooked me up with Ross Hosgrove, who edited the film. And then he called me a few years later and said he wanted to do this film on Cleveland sports, on Believeland, and could I assist? And of course, you know, filmmaking is what I want to do, and an opportunity to do a major project like that, you know, absolutely. So my role in Believeland was to do one of the things that I'm been pretty good at, and that's getting in touch with people and coming with ideas and storylines for the story. Now, there's some things that was left on the cutting room floor, but the story that you saw with Believeland is what we came up with. So it was a great opportunity for me, and it just all goes back to, you know, giving Gary Cohen those phone numbers, and it started a relationship that has been quite beneficial for me, not just because of the projects, but because of the mentorship that he's provided for me.
That is an absolutely beautiful story. I appreciate it. Thank you so much. We've been going so deep. Oh my God. And I appreciate you allowing us to just probe and just like get all of this information from you. It's such an honor and a blessing. I'm super, super excited. This is what I was going to ask you. You know, I've still got my notepad over here, my trusty notepad. I got my trusty notepad. I wanted to ask you a particular question though. And what it was, I wanted to ask if you have a favorite in terms of all of these different things that you do. So if you had to choose, okay, so I'm going to go here. So think of the film with Tom Hanks, and he gets, what's the name? He gets like Castaway, right? So Castaway, right? And in order to get back to the mainland, you're going to have to choose one of the three hats. Producer, director, or author? Producer, director, author. Which would get you back to the mainland?
Well, at this time in my life, especially since I was laid off from the Cleveland Plain Dealer back in April. So I'm no longer a full-time sports writer, but I had been preparing, you know, for this time for quite a while. But it would have to be director because of, I don't want to say more control. The one thing that I've found working with Gary Cohen is that, you know, you could be the editor, you can be the director, you can be the producer. It's truly a team. Nobody is running the show. And in fact, like, for example, Women of Troy, quite a few people on staff were allowed to interview the ladies. You know, if you had, and quite a few people on the staff were allowed to come up with questions. So it was truly a team effort. So, but I think director, probably, because of maybe having things go the way you would want them to. But like I said, even as a producer, you could have the power for that. So that's a tough question. That's a really tough question. But to answer, I'll just say director.
We can accept that one, huh?
Yes.
Lori G, did you want to share your director story with Branson? I think it's worth a share because we've got to go for ours, right? Every day we've got to chip away. Lori
Every day we chip away. Yes. Well, Branson, Jackie and I, actually, Jackie started a small production company for my sister and I. And it's called Gingy Productions and Entertainment. And the thing that we're most proud about for Gingy is that it is an organization that really works with the inner city. So my sister and I grew up in this little small town. I don't know if you heard of it. It's called Compton, California. You've heard of
Yeah, I heard
Compton?
of it. I heard of it. Yeah, a little bit. I think
Just a
once or
little
twice.
bit, huh? So we were born and raised in Compton, as DJ Quick says, right? And so we looked at our city, and you know, being from USC, working tirelessly, Virginia and I in the School of Dramatic Arts, we have a fond passion for theater, right? So we said we're going to put together this production, and we did that for the city of Compton, and we did The Bluest Eye. And so we're putting together the team, and I'm the producer because I'm good at that, right? Yeah, I like to tell people what to do, and I like to tell people to stay in budget. So that's my lane. Well, we get ready to get started. We've got the support of the mayor, the city council people, and guess what happens, Branson?
What happened?
The director leaves. The director's gone. We lose the director.
Oh my God, wild.
Wow.
I'm like, wow. So we got funding, right? We got actors. We got a beautiful Toni Morrison story. We got a producer, but we have no director. So in all my great wisdom, I somehow thought that I can do this, right? I can direct. It's better than going back telling the city I can't put on the production, right? So I put on my director's hat, and I have to say that I had directed a little bit of stuff, maybe 3 or 4 things prior to The Bluest Eye, but nothing that was a full-scale production. And it was eye-opening for me, kind of like that passion that you had for your filmmaking. I discovered a side of me that I didn't even know was there. I got so much joy from talking with people and inspiring people and trying to get them to see the story through my lens, and guiding that process. And it was just incredible. So I was excited when you said you would pick director if you were on that island, because that's what I would. I wouldn't pick dean, or I wouldn't pick administrator. I would really pick being a director. And for me, the passion in that is really connecting with individuals to share collectively in a vision which means so much to you. And so I'm interested in knowing, in your directorial role, how do you connect those dots? I mean, where do you get that passion and inspiration from?
Well, you know, as we talked about me being a sports writer and loving sports, I just see it as, you know, basketball as a point guard. And as a point guard, you want everybody to score. You want everybody to be happy. And if you're a good point guard, a sign of a good point guard is your teammates like you, because you're going to get them the ball. Magic Johnson, we loved Magic because he made helped everybody to shine. And the same with a quarterback. You know, if, you know, like Tom Brady, you know, he's passing the ball around. Everybody's to shine. So it's, you know, and it's almost like coaching too. It's you know, you want to get everyone to buy in to the vision of what we want out of this project, and for them to have faith and believe in you, that you have everyone's best interest, you know, to make this work. And granted, I'm no expert. You know, I've only done 3, only directed 3 films, but I mean, that's just the kind of thing. Yes, it's only.
I think you're diminishing that just a tad, Branson.
Well, I say because I hope to do more. That's what I mean by that. Hoping to do more.
You shall do more.
You will.
Yes, thank you. So I just see it like that. Just a quarterback and just or a point guard, just distributing and getting everybody on the same page.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Lori, I got a question.
Yes.
It's kind of piggybacking off of what Tap said, Branson, when we was on the phone trying to figure out the rate. I was talking with a filmmaker. He actually went to school for filmmaking, and I called him to ask him some of those questions. But I was mentioning to him that I was going to go to school to Full Sail University. So we've been friends a while. We did some documentaries together on Miami-based music. But he was telling me, like, I really don't need to go to school because if you got great content, they're not hiring people for their degrees. They're hiring for your content. And like you're saying, your work is good. So my question to you is, should I still go to school or just go off my content? Because you went to school for journalism and you're still good at what you do. So would you advise somebody if they don't need it? Because he's saying some of my work is good that I did on videos. And I don't know whether I was a director, producer, or whatever. I was just doing it. But what would be your advice? I just wanted the education, but he was saying you already got the experience. Should you go to school or not?
Yeah, experience is definitely the key for that experience. But I think you just have to weigh things in. In fact, somebody was just telling me about this great director that he dropped out of film school, and he's done all these great films.
Right.
I think it's something you may want to research. For example, again, I wasn't familiar with which school were you talking about again?
Full Sail University. It's out of Orlando.
Okay, so I would do some research. Who are the professors at this school? Like, what's their background? Like, for example, say one of the professors is Spike Lee. I mean, just throw out a name.
Right.
Say Spike Lee. So that would be great. To learn under somebody like that. Not only learning under them, but developing a relationship, and because of the context they have, and because of the relationship that can help you grow. Or who are some of the graduates? Who are the alumni from this school? And do they keep in touch? Are there any internships? Suppose from your school, there's an internship in Hollywood at Warner Brothers that they take so many kids from that school to go there. That's not only you're getting the education, but you're also getting the experience. And again, going back to the contacts. So I think I can understand the earlier advice that you did receive. I fully understand about the importance of experience. But I think when it's going back to school, you just got to look at how can it benefit you. Get some background on the school, on the professors, on who graduated from there. How much hands-on is it, and how much money you can get, so you don't have to pay for a lot of school out of your pocket. So,
and that's what he was mentioning. Like, I'm gonna have to pay back all his money. So yeah, that's that.
But maybe not. There may be some programs there that you don't have to. So so I would just do some research.
The research, right? Okay.
Yes.
Thanks.
I have a question for you.
Yeah, bro.
How can I put this? Right now, what I'm doing, man, I'm fortunate to have people like Jackie and Lori, you yourself, Mr. Charlie. I'm working with some beautiful people. I have mentors in LA, guys that is my partner. It's like my big brother. And they're all there to help me, to guide me to get to, the goal that I'm trying to reach, you guys. But Branson, I need to grow and not continue having to piggy bank off of your help. I want to do it on my own and be a help for you someday, and Charlie and Lori and everybody. I want to be in a position where it changes, where you guys may, or anyone for that matter, can come to me and I can be the one to help people, because I still find myself needing a lot of people. And, I want to reverse this, man. I want to be the one where people come, I want to be a leader instead of, right now at the position, I still need guidance. But I wanted to ask you something that I'm doing now that you're helping me. How did you get in those doors of those major companies, man? I know that's hard. And I want to know, how did you even get an interview or a meeting? You know, because, or was it just by circumstances like I get sometime and meeting people like yourself or meeting, or did you submit stuff? Or did you believe in yourself? Your stuff was so good that you submitted it and they called you back? Or is it more or less people that you know that got you in the door, that got you an interview? Because, you know, I have material and I don't want to always rely on other friends, because sometimes the other friends, you know, some people that know I love them, sometimes I feel as though they can't tell me no because, you know, because they my friend. You understand? My friendship is strong, brother. My friendship is good. And people want to help me. But then again, they got to help themselves. They just don't want to, you know, and I want to be able, when Charlie come to me, I want to be able to do the job. Or when you come to me, I want to be confident, bro. But you have dealt with avenues that I haven't been at yet. How did you do that, man? Because I find that, you know, I still get them doors closed. I don't even get in the door. I don't even get the opportunity to go to the door. They stop me from going to the door. I don't have appointments and stuff. I'm still on the outside trying to get in, sneak in like when I met you. You know what I mean?
How can you be down?
Yeah.
You know, Tap, it's a challenge, bro. You know, as I was saying about how I got on with Believeland and with Women of Troy was because of Gary Cohen, because he saw my article, which takes me back to, you know, from early advice about, you know, I was told that sometime, you know, again, about writing something to make people come after you. And I wrote something that made Gary come after me. He wanting a phone number and developing a relationship. So I guess it was something being fortunate about that. Gary had, because Gary did 10 30 for 30s for ESPN. So he had contacts, he had connections. So because of our relationship, because of my relationship with one of the beat writers for the Golden State Warriors, I called him and I said, I want to pitch a story. I want to pitch a story to Steph Curry, to his organization. I said, do you have a contact? And he said, well, of course I do. And I only knew him because I covered the NBA. So I was in a good position. So it's just putting yourself in position and those relationships. I mean, you don't know. I mean, some people are full of it. You find out in Hollywood, and
Branson,
some people aren't.
Before the show,
Hollywood talk.
Before the show tonight, Branson, I called Jackie and I called Lori. I had a pretty influential actor that was a friend of mine when we were younger, Branson. He used to look up to me because I'm older. And he called me tonight because I sent him the article about your show tonight. And he said, is this the night, Tap? Just the fact that he called me back, because this is a person that all y'all know, y'all watch him on TV today. It just felt good that he called me back. But I stepped it up, Branson. I sent him a long paragraph about, thank you for even involving me, you know, blah, blah, blah. But can you come on? We have the avenue. And I told him how the situation was, and we would love you, and maybe you can come on the panel. Now, you know what I may have done out of doing all that? And I love this guy, Branson, and we had fun when we were young. But I realized I may have alienated him, because sometimes some people might, you know, I might be asking for too much. I don't know, brother. But you know what? I took that chance because I just really thought I could. And, you know, if I did alienate, hopefully it won't be for long. I'll never know, you know, but I asked him anyway, bro. You know, and it's tough. You know what I mean? It's tough because I don't know what he's thinking. He really did, you know, after he called me, we had talked a couple of weeks ago for the first time in 2 years, and it was a great conversation, love. And then I sent him our thing tonight to tell him you're going to be on, and this is the show. So he called me back, he texted me back, and I sent him the stuff, and he just says, okay. But I told Lori to look out for him, but he never, you know, I guess he never came. But, you know, I just felt as though I had to do that. But I also don't want to alienate friends. But that's the part of show business, Brent. And that's what I go. I might alienate a lot of my friends, man. And I don't mean to. And I'm telling you and Charlie right now, if you guys ever get mad at me, it's because, man, I'm trying to do this, man.
No, I think you over worry. I think you overthink it, you over worry, but you're actually he wonder sometimes where his spot at. When I met up with you again, you was like, Charlie, I don't know if I'm able to manage you again because I've been out of the loop so long. But what Tap don't realize, he knows everybody. And you already making those hookups. You hooked me up with Lori. You hooked me up with Branson. You hooked me up with, you also told me I got a potential actor, and that's the guy you're talking about right now. So your magic is working already. You just don't realize it, you know, because you're on a talk show right now, talking with professional people, you know, so your magic is already working.
All right, now.
Oh, believe me, I got people too that I love, but you know, I don't, you know, it's like these people, you know, Branson said something. I wanted to stop him earlier and say that, guys, believe me, even with Lori, Branson, and Charlie, and Jackie, and everybody on it's like, why me? Why am I so lucky to be around here giving all this love to y'all? I feel lucky, man. But, you know, with that luck, I don't want to get on people's nerves and really, but you know what, man? For me to do what I'm going to do, I'm going to have to get on a lot of people's nerves. And I'm just letting you guys know now, I know I'm going to get on your nerves, but it's all in business. It's business, guys. You know
Branson,
what I
I
mean?
think that is a forewarning right there. That is a forewarning.
I love all you guys, but I'm getting ready to step it up. So I know I'm going to get on your nerves, but please still love me the way you do.
Yeah, but that's just hard work and effort. That's what we was just speaking on, you know. And when I met, you got to understand, I met you through the process of being on Holy Man. Like Branson said, I was an extra on Holy Man. So I met Fedorov, and Fedorov, who was, I guess, working with Eddie Murphy, and Fedorov felt like, okay, I got to hook you up with somebody that can help you better than I can, and that was you. So you got to understand, there's other people seeing talent and so much in you that you're not even realizing in yourself at times. So, you know, so that was big to me. So, you know, something you may be looking at yourself as, you know, am I worrying? Am I aggravating? No, this is part of the process. You gotta trust the process, you know?
I'm gonna tell you something I believe, and I've been telling Lori, Charlie, and I've been telling you, and I've been telling Branson. I believe in everybody on this show, man. I believe in this show. I believe in Charlie, and I believe in Branson. All of y'all going big places, man. I believe that. I believe that. I'm telling you. And I hope y'all believe it too, man. Don't leave me hanging, man. I hope y'all, because I'm telling you.
We already flying, Tapper. Don't you feel the wings, baby? Love? We already flying, baby. We in the sky. This is it. You know what I mean? So let me rattle some cages tonight, because we've been keeping it nice and smooth. So check this out. Y'all know I come from a little town, Branson. Lori might have mentioned it to you. I think I heard her tell you not too long ago that she and I were born and raised in a little city called Compton, California, IA. Let me just tell you something about my city. And I'm telling you, so We were born in the city of San Pedro, a little town here in California, and then from there we were taken directly to our parents' home, which is in the city of Compton. So that's where we were born and raised. That's everything we know. That's what we do. There's this rapper that came out of that city when Lori and I were growing up, and we used to go to the Compton swap. Well, more me going to the Compton swap meet. Lori didn't go as much as I did. We're going to the Compton swap meet and listening to different mixtapes. And there's this one guy that you may know, the good old Dr. Dre. So, wanted to know if you all are familiar know the fact that he and his wife, estranged wife, are getting a divorce. And in the news 2 days ago on TMZ, it was written about his wife is asking for $2 million per month in temporary spousal support. So this was like burning information on the ladies of the chat, this early morning chat that we do. Tapper, I can see your face and see you readjusting. So what do you gentlemen think? We had our ladies.
Not feeling it.
I can go into the article. Dr. Dre's estranged wife claims in legal docs Dr. Dre was violent with her in the past. And she also ticked off why she needs nearly $2 million a month in temporary spousal support while their divorce winds its way through the legal system. And the expenses she lists are eye-opening, guys. So check this out. She's gonna need, for her laundry and cleaning, approximately $10,000 a month. Her clothing bill at about $135,000 per month. And of course, her education, tuition, living expenses at about $60,000 per month. Her entertainment cost will be $900,000 per month. Charitable donations at $125,000 per month. And of course, that mortgage payment at $100,000 per month. And then the cell phones, internet, telephone, things like that at about $20K. So I'm going to pose it first to Branson.
Oh, I'm first.
It's the Branson Wright show night. Are you hearing this? Saturday night, the Branson Wright. Branson, when you hear this, you think you can break somebody up $2 million a month? How do you mean? What does that take
Wow.
you? I mean, is this right?
What was
That's
that
how
song?
you get your
Cheaper to
laundry
Keeper?
done, Branson.
Yeah. What was that song back in the day? Cheaper to Keeper?
Of course.
Wow.
That's a lot
Well,
of go, Mr. Charlie.
Absolutely. Cheaper to keep them.
Wow. Cheaper to keep.
Look at Virginia.
Well,
Okay, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
It's just unbelievable. That's it's unbelievable, man. Just for I don't know what somebody contributed to a relationship that much to where I don't know how much sex, how much head, oral sex. I don't
wow.
how many cookings. I don't know that 2 million.
Mr. Charlie.
Hey, I'm just saying. I gotta be honest. All of that's worth 2 million.
Well, come on. I got to get my laundry done. I need my personal chef.
Oh, man.
And I have to have some entertainment. Plus, I have to pay the Malibu house rent. Come on.
Washing machine. What happened to the washing machine? The wash house.
I have never gone to a wash house in my life. Just because you leave doesn't mean I'm going to start going to a wash house.
Lori, what did Tanya Michelle just say on the chat? She said, she believes in who?
What do you mean?
No, she said she believes in Mr. Charlie, Tanya Michelle?
Yeah, she agreed.
Well, actually, Tanya Michelle is in the audience, and she says she agrees with Mr. Charlie.
For real, man.
That's a lot of money, guys.
That's a lot, man.
Yeah,
I see she said 50,000 or 100,000. Come on.
Well, Shelly C is our Hollywood entertainer reporter here. And I don't hear you saying anything, Shelly. Come on, weigh in. Hollywood, come on.
I'm just listening because I don't think anybody's going to like what my
yes, we do. It's
Shake it up for Branson here.
Shake it up, shake it up, shake it up, shake it.
I'm just saying, what's a lot to you may not be a lot to someone else. That's all I have to say. What could be a lot but to you, you may think 2 million is a lot, may not be a lot for Dr. Dre.
Come on, I don't think Dre's pockets are that deep. Are they that deep, y'all?
No, they that
he's close to $1 billion.
He's close to $1 billion.
I heard reports at 800 million.
Yeah,
that's what I heard.
Right.
Yeah, but if he gotta give her 2 million a month, he gonna run out quick. He gonna
be broke real quick.
It's temporary spousal. It says temporary. 2 million is Keyshawn from our Facebook. Hey Keyshawn is saying that 2 million ain't nothing to Dre. You said, Dre, she was there in the beginning.
If I ever
Dante says that's a whole 2 of my millions. He's not feeling giving away 2 of his millions. Dante is our engineer.
You not giving it up?
Dante said no, she's not getting it.
Dante ass, he ain't giving up
Well,
nothing.
I think that remains to be seen. I really do think that remains to be seen, being that she is an attorney, and I'm sure she has attorney friends. And if she thinks it's possible to ask for it, why not? I mean, say for example, the man who owns Amazon, what's his name? His name has bypassed.
Bezos.
Okay. Do you think 2 million a month would be a whole lot for him?
I do. Yeah. That's a lot for anybody.
What are you talking about?
No, because you're listening to the sum in your head. You're not looking at the numbers.
What the expenses are?
I'm listening to those expenses.
That's a good call, Shelly just said. Because Shelly, his wife is now the richest woman in the world. Bezos' wife now worth 60. She got 60 billion from him.
Okay, and he had no problem giving her what he gave her.
So how much
but she ended up with a settlement, didn't she?
Yeah, 60 billion.
60 billion.
Marion, Joseph.
Bill? And guess what? He's still worth 189 billion right now.
Okay, my point.
Does that mean you are in favor of the 2 million? That's what it sounds like to me.
But Lori, was Dr. Dre giving her $2 million a month while they was together?
Yes.
What was her lifestyle when they was together?
Exactly.
They had a house in the West Side. They had a house in Malibu. All the cars, all of the other stuff. He donated a building to USC. We have a Dr. Dre building.
Hello.
So they were doing pretty good.
So I would be the wrong person to ask that question to.
But she can't just go back, Mr. Charlie, to being regular.
Yeah.
I agree with that. But I just think that's too much. It's just too much.
Branson, you're not weighing in. You're so quiet.
I'm never one to spend. I'm never one to spend someone else's money. but whatever. I mean, it's like any negotiation. She's asking for $2 million a month, and they'll probably settle for something a little less. And believe me, Dre's gonna pay what? Well, no, he's gonna pay what the courts say that he can afford.
Exactly.
Right.
So that's the bottom line. So she's asking for
their expenses. They're gonna look at both of their expenses. They're gonna look at the lifestyle that she's had for 24 years.
Yeah.
And they're going to award her what she deserves. Yeah. So let's just see how that turns out.
Yes. Now, if I was his lawyer, I would try to negotiate just some one-time settlement and just say, here, let me write your check for whatever, and just be done with it.
Or wake John Gotti up. Wake John Gotti back up.
Like a one-time.
It's interesting. The key word is temporary. Right.
Yes.
I was just going to so when I hear that word temporary, I also hear that word prenuptial.
Yes.
So
yes.
maybe
there a prenup
to get around that prenup. So if I can get that $2 million a month for maybe 5-6 months, bingo. I hit that prenuptial mark, and then now we can actually have that fair settlement.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I think maybe a smart lawyer might do. Yes,
Lori,
yes.
are all the kids grown?
Oh my God.
Oh yeah, they're grown. One of them is at our school right now.
At SC, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Your daughter.
We said spousal
The
support,
daughter's there.
not child support. We said
No, she wants spousal support. It's for her.
Wow, wow,
Just for
wow.
For
her.
her.
and might I add that that's all tax-free money for her. She does not have to pay.
It would be tax-free.
Yes.
That's free.
Smart lady.
Sounds like, you know what? It sounds like a Janet Jackson move to me. Don't it sound like a Janet Jackson move?
Hey.
Hey, Janet got married 4 days after the got divorced 4 days after the contract ended. Walked away with 800 million. Sounds like a Janet Jackson move.
So like I said,
I don't know, guys. It's
turns
just
out.
what-
You've been
what
planning
Shelly
that
say?
for.
Sorry.
Branson, we let
Well, I'm
that
not
down.
mad at her. If she
Into
can
the
get it, go
family.
get it, girl.
She's been planning that for a long time. That's
Yeah.
not nothing that just popped up in her head. She's been
No.
planning that for some years.
Yes.
She's been
To
planning
get
that.
away.
Years she's been
Hey.
she's been
You always gotta have an exit strategy.
You gotta be
I,
strict.
nah,
So
I
let's
think
hope
I
she
think
puts some
was,
away anyway. Because she had access to it. So let's hope she's been putting something away for her
You
son
are
anyway.
assuming, V. You are assuming she
Yeah,
had
That's what I said. Let's hope. Let's
He
hope.
is a real Compton, you know what? So I don't think she got a whole lot of access to his dough.
She might have had an allowance.
Well, I hope she
Lord.
saves some.
Access.
Lori.
Yeah. Yes.
I honestly think that she got an entanglement going on.
Oh, Mr. Charlie. Do tell.
I just think so. I think she got to have an entanglement going on.
Oh my God.
Or he had an
See what we
entanglement.
get into at the latter half of the show? We really get down and dirty here.
Hey, I'm all ears.
Or either he had
Are
an
you guys
entanglement.
listening? I'm just going to put out here. I know this is probably bad journalism, Branson, so don't fault us for this. This is our Hollywood gossip hour. I heard on a previous show that Dr. Dre and Nicole like the same type of lovers. That's what I heard. And that's why I heard she was coming so hard.
But I heard too. I heard it. I was right here. I was like,
So much
and
gossip in the world.
And the person who said it, Branson, was pretty, he's not a bad guy.
In those circles.
Hey, it's y'all show. Do tell. I don't know. Do tell. Same kind of people. What are you talking about?
Branson, you said this wasn't a part of the pre-interview, huh? We didn't discuss this, right? Branson said, "What's happening now?" Well, I don't know, guys. I think this will be one for the record books. I think the last big shock was, you guys remember P. Diddy and old girl wanting $11,000 a month for child support.
And people thought $11,000 was a lot.
They thought that was a lot, right? But did she get it, Shell?
I'm just saying. She got it.
I think she got it. She got the $11,000 a month.
Like I said, they look at your expenses as a whole and what lifestyle you had for 24 years. So I think we'll just see.
I don't know.
Yeah,
We'll just
I agree with Branson that the courts is going to tell them this is what you got to pay, and that's going to be the bottom line.
right.
Yeah, that's true. Well, Dante says, hell no. He don't care what the courts say. He's not saying.
I'm just hoping that nobody's end up anywhere. That's what I'm like.
Yes.
End up
I hope you
missing.
don't get a job, Dante, because you know the state gonna be looking for you.
Yeah. You got to be on the run, Dante. You got to be on the run.
Keep it moving.
It is a mess.
This has been a beautiful time. Poetess
I was just
Rain.
going to ask you that.
We have only 6 minutes. Only 6 minutes. We have to hear your
Dougie Fresh, we're on. I know.
6 minutes, Dougie.
Mr. Branson Wright, how are you doing, sir? Did you have a good time tonight?
This was a great time. Really enjoyed it. I'm glad you guys invited me, and it was my pleasure. My pleasure.
This is an honor. There's so much more. I'm letting you know. I'm a hustler, baby. and I'm a grinder, and I gets it in. So I'm just going to put it out there in the atmosphere. I am a very spiritual person too. And I believe in the spirit of the living God and all that he has to offer each and every one of us here tonight on this platform. And I bless his holy name and thank him in advance for all of the greatness that he's going to do for all of us here and close by, and that continue to cover us with his blood as we continue to move through this pandemic. And that being stated, I have a new piece that the Spirit of the Living God blessed me with actually 7 days ago. I'm a numbers person, and you know how I feel about 7. But the name of this piece is called, you guys bear with me, In the Belly. I'm going to repeat that. In the belly. In the belly of the love land, does innocent souls meet, dancing above the sheets, seductive, exotic, and free. It's that belly of the love land, souls that are so deep and primitive. You know, those certain glands begin to secrete. In the belly of the love land, let it take you there without a worry and without a care. Dancing in the pale moonlight, in the belly of the love land. Will she be free, exotic and sultry? I say, will she be free in the belly of the love land? That is she. It is free. The belly, the love land, and me. The poet just reigns again. That's it.
All right. All right.
What do you think?
Like it. Like it.
You like it? You guys like it?
Cool.
You
Yeah.
like it.
Yes.
Mr.
Yes.
Branson Wright, what do you
Yes.
think,
Great.
dear sir?
That was great. That was great. I got to fan myself off.
You know, sometimes you don't even know where your work comes from. I know you know that it's being a writer and a storyteller, as you say, Mr. Wright, but sometimes, you know, you just kind of get in the belly, right? It's like when it came to me, I was thinking about, honestly, I can just give a little bit. I was thinking about Jonah and when he was in the belly of the, and I just didn't want to say B-E-A-S-T at the time of writing. And I'm like, we all know that story. So let's say when you're in the belly of the love land. You know what I mean? Let it take you there, right? The love land. I take you there. Just kind of take it someplace else. Because even when you in the gut, when you up in the cut, like you said, you don't know where that next funding is coming from. You don't know how you're going to make this all go together. And you in the belly, but you always see the bright. You see the light. You see the goodness, and you can taste the honey and the milk, right? So it's in the love land, even though it could be funky sometimes, but you can just still taste the love land. So thank you so much for coming and being part of our show tonight.
Yes.
I appreciate it.
Thanks
so
for having me. Thanks for having me. Thank you,
Lori
everybody,
G,
for
what
having
you
me.
got for us, Lori G?
I have, from our Zoom room, we have a response from, I think is it Sia? S-I-A. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right. I apologize if I'm not. Oh, yes. Okay.
Yes.
So the comment is awesome. Your piece was awesome. So
Bless
that's
you.
great.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Branson, I have a question. How can
Sure.
I see the blur? Where can I find it?
Well, what we've done is only when Dwight and I are at schools or any programs or things like that. But since his passing, and there was some of his friends from Dayton that called me, we're talking about doing something, possibly showing it in Dayton, like at a drive-in in a couple weeks, and probably I'll have probably have a Zoom showing. I've done that in the past, and have a Zoom showing, and you know, because so many people, especially since his passing, have loved Dwight, especially from Dayton, and and that's something on record that more people need to see, and just to keep the spirit alive.
Well, will you keep the Poetry of Justice show informed?
Yes, Yes,
Right.
yes, yes, indeed. And you guys have my contact information. You know, let's not let this end here. Let's continue to communicate. And, you know, and when this pandemic is over, you know, see each other in person.
Absolutely. We'll be back in the studio.
Leslie, I'm so excited. Our God is awesome. Woo! I had a great time. Thank you, Branson. Look it. I have to tell you this, please, sir. What I always tell most of our guests is that one thing we can get back. You can get money back. Sometimes you can get friends back, but you can never get your time back. And I honor you and I bless you. Thank you so much for choosing to spend your time with us here tonight on the Poetry of Justice show.
Yes.
And I do hope you consider coming back again. We'd love to
Oh,
have
absolutely.
you. And then just
Thanks
let
again.
you know, I will be popping off about you being on the show, and I will be doing more tags. And just to let you know. If that's okay.
And it is, and I can be reached at Twitter at Branson Wright. Easy to locate me.
Awesome times, awesome times. We did a great one, Big Tap Consulting. You having a good time tonight? This was a great one, big guy. How you feeling about it all?
You know I'm feeling good. You know I'm feeling good. You know, I don't want to kiss myself. You know, you guys always trying to get me. You know I'm feeling good.
Oh my goodness.
It was just a nice flow tonight, right? It was just so cool. Nice flow. Yeah. I appreciate everything. Thanks, Branson, man. And
hey, thank you.
Listen, I need you guys to remember, this is Directors Month, Branson. This is entertainment, like film entertainment month. And next week we got Julian Starks from LA. He's born and raised from Cincinnati as well.
Yes.
And he's next week. And the week after we have Fedorov Colin from Philadelphia. We have Fedorov from Philly. He's a philanthropist. How do you say it? You know.
Yes, that's
you said
right.
it. You got it.
Yeah. Yes. And the 26th, we're not sure. It looks like David Zuniga, but that's kind of tentative. But I think it's going to be David Zuniga on the 26th. But this is filmmaker, film entertainment month. And we're looking forward for it, man. And you kicked it off, and it was a blast. Like I told you, I knew it was going to be a stone cold group.
Hey, that philanthropist, we may need to talk to him. Does he like films?
Huh?
Does he like films?
Exactly.
He's a filmmaker. Fedorov Colin is his name. Google his name. He worked for Eddie Murphy for 30 years, but he's a filmmaker / he works with the youth in Philadelphia. They gave him a key to the city, all that, man. He's the man. Yep, young my age, 58 years old, and just, doing big things, man. Just like yourself, man. Something about filmmakers, man. They touch people, man. They really, it's a similarity. They got a vibe, man. You guys got a killer vibe. Filmmaker month is, that's something special, man. That's something special. Filmmaker month. That was my idea, by the way. Filmmaker month.
Go ahead.
Branson, as you can see, Tap is definitely patting himself on the back.
Yeah, he needs to. He needs to. He's gonna tap it.
It's all good. He deserves it because Branson's the man.
He does. Branson, you were amazing.
I had some people. Yeah. You did it. You did that. Thank you, sir. Thank you so much.
Thank you guys. Thank you guys.
Now, Branson, one sneak peek before we get out of here. Just, are there any behind the scenes things, any films coming up that you want to lay a little bit of hint out there that's coming from Branson Films?
Yes. Working on, it's still in the very early stages, but I signed a deal with Sony through Steph Curry's production company on a film. It's a feature film, not a documentary. It's a feature film called Church Hoppers. So and it's a comedy. and it's a comedy. You can go to you can Google it, and there's some articles in Variety that talks a little bit about it. Yeah, looking forward to it. It's finish up writing it right now. One of the writers, and we're looking forward to it.
I tell you, well, now that we're friends, Branson, I'm looking forward to the opening in the red.
Yes, and of course, COVID slowed things down. So hopefully by the end of next year, that it'll be on the screen.
Look at that, ladies. We will be on the red carpet walking through to the opening.
Oh yeah.
I gotta get my outfit ready. Gotta get my outfit ready.
That's wonderful. Congratulations on that, Branson. That's great. It's just wonderful to hear people doing amazing things, and you're definitely doing amazing things. And thank you for being an inspiration. The Poetry of Justice show uses this as a platform to provide hope and inspiration and knowledge and awareness for our community. And so showcasing you tonight was all of that rolled up into one.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and I can't thank you guys enough. I so appreciate it. And I had a wonderful time.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you.
All
right. So there we are. Are you good, Poetess Rames?
I'm good, everybody. Let's do it. We'll be back. What's next week? Gerald told us, but we'll be back. We're going to have a good time, and I can't wait for the project. So I love you guys. Thank you so much for joining the Poetry of Justice show with JackieRay Phillips on YikesRadio.com and AccelerateRadio.net. Everybody, I need you to remember, because we got a filmmaker on the panel tonight, guys. You guys got to remember to go to our YouTube channel. I know we're so accustomed to being on Facebook. It's fancy and fun, but we got to drive some traffic over there to the POJ show with JackieRay. That's our YouTube channel, and we'll have it up for you guys shortly. I love you all. Have a good night. God bless.
Good night.
Good night, guys.
Night.
Good night.
Night.